Hello again, Internet. This is Andrew from Angry Mojo Games, here to go ahead and start with the first of our hobby tutorials dealing with that Age of Sigmar box set that we unboxed for you the other day. Today I'm going to go and do something small for the completely new players. We're going to go over a small assembly tutorial. Now, I've seen a lot of tutorials, read a lot of painting guides. They all tell you to make sure to clean your figures before assembling, and then proceed to never tell you exactly what that means. So, we're going to go and take you through the assembly of a Stormcast Eternal. Just one of your basic infantry guys. For this, you'll wind up needing, obviously, the model, a tube of plastic glue. I recommend using testers because it's cheap. If you like the thinner stuff, you can wind up getting thin stuff as well. A pair of hobby cutters. I personally like the Games Workshop ones. They cut flush. They make for a nice clean cut. They got some heft to them. You'll need a file of some sort. Once again, this is the actual official Citadel file. Their new tool set's a bit pricey, but it's definitely worth it. Some people like using their mold line remover. Personally, I love their hobby knife. It's got some heft to it. The thing that made me fall in love with the hobby knife is I dropped mine one time and it landed hilt down instead of blade down. So, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to clip the parts from the sprue. Take your cutters and go and find every little join mark and very quickly clip them. This should only take a couple minutes. And I apologize for my shaky hands. If anybody ever tells you can't engage in this hobby because your hands aren't steady, you tell them to go stuff themselves. Because if I can do it, I'm sure you can. Alright. So, now that we've got one of our pieces, you may notice everywhere I clipped, there's an unsightly little blemish. That is what these tools are for. Personally, I like taking the knife, just lightly scraping that blemish off. Not very much, a little dab will do you. By the feet, they're very important, so to make sure that the feet stay flush against the base. Going around to this one right here. You may have to put a little bit of pressure behind the knife to make sure. Always be careful to not cut yourself, although that's bound to happen. This is a game that features a blood god, so the blood god must be satisfied. Alright. So that's that. Go ahead and scrape away the excess plastic. Next, and this is a very important part if you want your models to look good when you paint them. Now, along the mold line, along the figure, there are mold lines. These figures, when they're made, have a very large steel mold that gets pushed together and then has high-impact polystyrene pressure injected into it. A little bit can make it through that mold, and that's what causes that mold line. Now, if you're new to this, you're going to think, well, Andrew, that doesn't look like it's that bad. Oh, believe me, when you prime it and paint it, you'll know it's there. Some of it you can file when the figure's done, but realistically you want to go through, and anywhere there's not a join, I want to go and just lightly scrape and get that mold line out of there. Now, the Stormcast Eternals are very interesting that their mold lines, for the most part, are on spots where the armor has a ridge anyway, like right along here. Games Workshop very frequently does this, and that's just indication of the fact that they have been working with this medium and material for a very, very long time. A lot of the miniature companies I've seen, they use the same plastic. They don't do that. So now we've got that. Just for the sake of hobby, I'll go ahead and show you. Clip off the front. Now, very important, if assembly instructions come with these figures, make sure to read them. Sometimes you have to glue things together in a specific order. I picked this one for this first tutorial because it's relatively simple and straightforward, and you're not going to have to do that. But sometimes you'll have to glue a spot in place, and then you'll find out later, oh no, this other piece I have to put in goes underneath that. The last thing you want to have to do is carve up a miniature you just finished putting together to put his head inside the armor body. Okay, so we got some basic stuff, not really any egregious mold lines on this piece. This is when our plastic glue comes by. Now, once again, I recommend testers because it's cheap. This bottle cost me about $1. I think they may have gone up to $1.20. You want to put a little bit of glue anywhere the two pieces are going to join. Now, one of the nice things about this specific type of material, this is a high-impact polystyrene. This plastic glue actually will form a permanent bond between the pieces. They will fuse together. So any spot there's some excessive glue, you can just wipe it off there with your finger. This stuff shouldn't hurt your fingers. If it does, I apologize. Please go to a burn ward if it really, really burns. Contact your health professional, as I'm not one. Now you're going to want to let it sit. Technically speaking, it takes about 20 minutes for this glue to completely cure. So in the meantime, while that's going, let's go ahead and clip this guy's head off. Now, this is a really simple figure. So there is a step for assembly that I'm not going over. And that's called dry fitting. Anytime that you put two pieces together, and this is a very good indicator, this is a very good one, I'll show you what I mean, it's possible that when you clip the joints, a small amount will stay by. It's also possible that you can hit a mismold. So, before you put pieces together with glue, you want to put them in without glue just to make sure of where they go. If there are large gaps or you found out, oh no, that's not how that goes, you can fix it. Like this guy right here, his head is supposed to be tilted to the side. I did not know that until I dry fit. If I was working with glue, that'd be a little bit of finagling and could have left an unsightly blemish. Now granted, this one would have been inside his collar, so it's not a big deal, but when that's right on their arm, oh, that's not something you want, especially if you want your guys looking good. And I'll go ahead and tell you this, if you're more interested in playing than you are in modeling, good-looking figures perform better. It's a superstition, but it's true. I promise. I'm not just making that up. So we got a little bit of glue. Stick his head right in there. There we go. Now the last piece on this particular gentleman is his shield. This will be a straightforward assembly. We've got some more complicated pieces from the box we'll be doing later on. And just repeat the same process. Now, this one, it appears that there's a little bit more than just the initial blemish to slice off, but it doesn't look like we got any sort of really heavy mold lines to work with. So, this is where the file comes in. That little blemish right there, we're just going to file off a little bit and watch as it disappears. So, let's dry fit as always and see the exact positioning of where this shield goes. This is a perfect moment where you want to dry fit because I'm not quite sure exactly how that goes on. Tiny bit of glue. As I have butterfingers. Once again, I promise you, if I can do this, then you can do this. And we socket them in like that. Now, this glue will stick very, very quickly, but don't let that fool you. Because it is entirely possible that it will fall off before it's dried. So there we have our Stormcast Eternal. Now there's only one thing we're missing, and that's the base. Alright, well I just grabbed my base because apparently I forgot to grab that when I started the video. There we have the base. Now, technically in Age of Sigmar, the base size is irrelevant. As the rules say, the base is there exclusively to hold up the model. But you generally want a base that's going to fit the model. A lot of games say a model must be on a specific size base because it works as a game mechanic aspect. So, once again, the bases are made from the same high-impact polystyrene. Just dab some glue on. You can be a little bit more generous otherwise than with this one. Put them on, hold them in place for a couple seconds. Make sure his feet are flat. And then there you go. Now, we're just about done with this particular gentleman. There's one more thing we got to do. If you see on those shoulder pads where we glued it together, you can see a little bit of a glue bubble. This is where the file really comes into play. You can just zap that up real quick. And then, once you prime it, you won't be able to see that line at all. And that is how you clean and assemble a miniature. So remember, first you clip it off the sprue. Second, you clean any blemishes that may be left on the figure. Third, clean off all of your mold lines. Fourth, dry fit pieces in place. Fifth, put a tiny dab of glue on, and then then you actually put the pieces together. Now, there are other techniques you may need for assembling metal or resin. We'll get to that later as those figures pop up. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and enjoy your models.